Good morning, I'm Geeta. Welcome back to News But Not News. In the name of pure honey, half percentage of sugar syrup is being sold by most of the brands. As being health conscious, are you preferring to use honey instead of sugar? But have you ever thought how pure your honey is? Are you really having pure honey or honey adulterated with half percentage of sugar syrup? Yes, an investigation in December 2020 by CSE has unraveled the food fraud. Even top leading brands failed the test of purity, which horrifies the consumers. Based on the CSE report, PIL public interest litigation was filed by NGO that sought criminal action and a ban on all industries and companies allegedly engaged in unauthorized production of adulterated honey. On 19th April 2021, court issued notice in the matter to the Ministry of Home Affairs. What happened after that? What is meant by indirect adulteration of honey? What is the difference between direct adulteration and indirect adulteration of honey? What are the impacts of honey adulteration? We'll get to know all details about honey adulteration in today's News But Not News special story.
Honey rich in nutrients and antioxidants, it is a boon to human health. But being a natural substance of high commercial value and limited supply, it is more prone to adulteration. An investigation in December 2020 by CSE had unraveled the food fraud. CSE Center for Science and Environment in the part of investigation has collected honey samples from top and smaller brands of processed and raw honey being sold in India to check their purity and have sent these samples to two labs. One, Center for Analysis and Learning in Livestock and Food (CAF) at NDDB, National Dairy Development Board. 2. Advanced Lab Test NMR in German laboratory. First, all the samples were tested in CAF and NDDB. Almost all top brands except Apis Himalaya pass the test of purity, while a few small brands fail in C3 and C4 types of tests. C3 sugars are found in starchy plants such as rice and beetroot. C4 sugars are derived from plants like sugarcane and corn. These sugars and their traces must not exceed a certain threshold for honey to be called as pure. CAF laboratory in India did not find any adulteration of C3 and C4 sugars in big brands. The scene was entirely reversed when all samples were sent to a top laboratory in Germany for advanced testing called NMR, Nuclear Magnetic Resonance Spectroscopy. It is the best available technology to detect adulteration, especially in honey. It is often called the gold standard for honey testing. All exporting honey from India must undergo this test, but this test is not mandatory for the honey sold in India. These samples were again tested using NMR technique. An additional test called trace marker for rice syrup TMR was also tested on the samples in a German laboratory. The results were shocking that all brands which had passed an Indian lab test failed in German laboratories. Almost all samples except 3 failed the NMR test. 77% of Indian brands, including top brands like Dabur, Patanjali, Zandu, Baidyanath, Hitkari, failed in NMR tests. Some of these, such as Dabur, Patanjali, Hitkari, even failed in TMR that indicates unauthorized addition of rice syrup, a C3 sugar syrup. But these went undetected in Indian test on C3 sugars. 3 brands which passed all tests were Safolo, Markford Sohna, Nature's Nectar, 1 sample out of 2. The reason behind passing all the tests in India but failing in German laboratories is also explained by CSE's Director General Sunita Narayan. Nearly 11,000 metric tons of syrup is being imported from China for last 4 years by Indian companies. That Chinese companies designed the syrup in such a way that in India no test can detect the adulteration. And Chinese companies are openly advertising in websites like Alibaba that C3, C4 sugars which can easily bypass the test. Not only that, even if honey adulterated with 50% of this syrup, the tests conducted in India cannot detect adulteration. And she also says, in this situation, even now if companies claim that it passed all FSSAI parameters is just misleading consumers. Based on this CSE reports, PIL public interest litigation was filed by NGO Anti-Corruption Council of Indian Trust. The Supreme Court on April 19, 2021 issued a notice to the centers and 34 state and union territories on a petition seeking directions to check the authenticity of honey being sold in India. The petitioner had claimed that most of the honey sold in Indian market were adulterated with sugar syrups. The increased consumption of sugar will cause health problems in the population. The petitioner had cited a report from CSE that claimed that Indian brands were using a modified sugar importing from China, which was helping bypass adulteration test in the country. Expressing the doubts on the merits of the petition, the Supreme Court recently, on December 4, 2023, dismissed PIL public interest litigation. Justice Nad advised approaching relevant authorities to address concerns about adulteration. We'll see few of the adulterated honey seized in last few years. On 15th August 2021, the Maharashtra Food and Drug Administration seized more than 3,480 kgs of honey worth over 36 lakhs for not complying to various mandatory product parameters. On 16th October 2022, around 30 liters of adulterated honey was seized and destroyed from 3 persons by the District Food Safety Department in Udagamandalam. The sellers of adulterated honey were selling the honey to tourists, claiming that it was pure honey gathered from the forest. Later in an investigation, it was known that the honey was adulterated with store-bought honey mixed with honey that was gathered in private honey producing units and sold in plastic bottles. At that time, the officials also revealed a shocking fact that honey also contained insects and maggots that could be very injurious to the health of people that could consume it. Just before 3 months, on 30th November 2023, PFA Punjab Food Authority seized 120 kilos of adulterated honey in Lahore. Along with 120 kgs of ready-made substandard honey, they also seized 150 kgs of glucose syrup, 1 kg of open colors, and several empty bottles. The manufacturing unit was reportedly producing poor quality honey using bright colors and chemicals. The higher demand and limited availability of honey led to different forms of adulteration. Till now, what we saw is direct adulteration. Then, what is indirect adulteration? Indirect adulteration involves feeding honeybees with different sugar solutions at certain stages when natural nectars are not available or for developing colonies with optimal population. Honey produced by these bees is just another sugar with hardly any medicinal values. Toxic impact of honey adulteration. Consuming adulterated honey may lead to increased blood sugar, followed by the release of the insulin hormone and type 2 diabetes, abdominal weight gain and obesity, a rise in blood lipid levels, and high blood pressure. In simple words, we can tell we are consuming more honey to build immunity, but consuming adulterated honey with syrups will reduce immunity to the diseases.
That's all about honey adulteration. Honey adulteration is not the biggest problem only in India but across world. Don't fall in a trap by seeing 100% pure honey. See whether it is raw, unpasteurized, unadulterated, unfiltered honey. So coming to a final conclusion, honey adulteration is even more worse than what we thought. So what needs to be done? So we should be very much sure before purchasing honey. We should see for NMR tested instead of FSSAI tested. There is a saying that all that is white is not milk. Most of us might known about the saying. In the same way, we should remember one thing, that all that is liquid golden color is not honey. And according to my opinion, do not use honey as a complete substitute to sugar until or unless you're pretty much sure that your honey is 100% pure. Instead of that, you can prefer other natural sweeteners as a substitute. Alright, finally, you may get it out that there are many tests which can be done in home itself to identify whether the honey is pure or not. Is it so? Really? We'll get to know about this in the next news but not news. Until then, Geeta signing off. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.